and welcome to episode 1 of A Yarn Tale. My name is Karen and I'm coming to you from Chicago, where I live with my husband and our 3 children and our dog Max, who might show up at some point during this video. He is roaming around somewhere. So, why a knitting podcast? Well, you guys, I love to talk about knitting, and I don't know anyone in real life who knits. So, as you can imagine, it is fairly awkward for my family, who are lovely people. But you know, there's only so much you can do when you don't knit and someone keeps saying like, look at these amazing short rows that I did, and what color should I use for my Fair Isle cowl? And you're like, what's a cowl? And what's Fair Isle? So I thought maybe to give my family a break, this podcast might be a way to share some projects that I'm working on, or projects I want to work on, or things I should be working on, and connect with some people who might be able to relate a little bit better. So let's get into it. So I'm going to start with what I'm wearing. I am wearing the Magnolia pullover by Camilla Vad. I knit this out of Rauma Lamel yarn. It's 100% wool, light fingering, held double with Rowan Kid Silk Haze. That's a lace weight, 70% mohair, 30% silk. And I really love how it turned out. I have to say I was surprised because I ordered the yarn online and I'm super new to knitting. I started knitting in 2019. Right at the end of 2019 in December, which turned out to be excellent timing because we were going to be trapped in our homes for a full year. So as far as like new things to do, it worked out really well. But I haven't been knitting that long, so when it comes to substituting yarn, I'm kind of at a loss. I know I'm supposed to get the weight, you know, generally to match, and the fiber content should be fairly comparable if you're looking to get similar type of drape. But beyond that, I'm kind of like, I don't know, we'll see what happens. So I ordered my yarn, and when it came, the Rauma was super woolly wool. I mean, you know, shocker, it's 100% wool, but I don't know, I didn't think that it was gonna be like that. It was pretty scratchy, it was kind of prickly, and I just wasn't sure how that would work sweater-wise. But I figured, I don't know, okay, I'll knit up a swatch and see what I get. And the good news is that when you combine the fingering with mohair, the mohair like erases all the scratchiness. So I love the fabric that it creates. It's like kind of fuzzy, not at all scratchy. I'm not even wearing a t-shirt under this and I don't mind at all. It's really light, it's super warm, and I just overall could not be happier with it. So it's, for those of you that are not familiar with it, it's basically stockinette with some short rows in the back, on the top, and then there's this lace panel that goes all the way around, and it ends in some twisted rib, and then that same lace and ribbing shows up again on the sleeve. So this was a complete stretch as far as ability level, or my lack of ability, to knit this sweater, because it was my first time doing short rows, it's my first time doing twisted rib, it's my first time doing lace, and it was a first for a lot of things. It was like a good learning experience. This is Max. But that was great. I mean, I'm always up for learning new things. So, you know, generally I think that, you know, there's got to be a tutorial somewhere. YouTube is a wonderful thing, and some nice Scandinavian lady will explain how to solve whatever predicament I have gotten myself into. But there were a couple of snags when I knit this sweater. So first, I used a lifeline. Well, I used I used a lifeline because I was like, okay, I've never done lace before. I've heard about lifelines. That sounds like a great idea. Because it's knit top down in the round. So by the time you get to the body, there's like quite a few stitches on the needles, and the idea of picking them all up, should I have to rip back, was kind of daunting. So put in my lifeline and I'm feeling good about it. And I did, like I had to use it. I screwed up my count, like no surprise there. And so I pulled back and it worked, hooray. But then I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe I watched too much Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and like once you use your lifeline, it's not there anymore. Because once I pulled back, then I started the lace over again and took the lifeline out because like I didn't need it anymore. Well, no, no, I did need it again, only then it wasn't there. So that was awkward. And I basically had to try to rip back without a lifeline, which I don't know if you've had this wonderful experience, but I did it. It was great. But it was much better. Leave your lifelines in, people. Pro tip. But nonetheless, the real trouble came when I got to, I don't know if you can see. So in the lace panel, there's these like leaf patterns, and then in each one there's these 4 little balls. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4. Each one has it. It's all the way around. It's on the sleeves, and these are noops or nups. I think it's noops. I like to refer to them as tiny balls of doom because I could not get the hang of these. So it's not the pattern. She explains it really well. It's all laid out, how you're supposed to do it, and you basically just knit into the same stitch a million times. And you're supposed to do it loosely so you can maneuver. And I was doing it loosely. I thought I was doing it loosely, but I clearly wasn't, because like 2 things happened. Either I thought I did it right, and then I completed my noop, and it all kind of like unraveled because I didn't get it through all the way or whatever. Or I did it, and it held, I did it, I completed it, but then my noop was like really floppy, and it didn't stand up the way that it looked in the pictures. It looked so cool in the picture. But I was like, okay, I mean, I've never done this before, so I'm just gonna do it. Like I got to the first row of noops, which is like this row here, and I'm going around, and there's 10 in that first row. And like, it was pretty painful, super slow. And also my count kept getting messed up because I would lose track with the noops of where I was, and I don't even know. So I thought that it would get better. And after I did that first row, then I'd kind of get into a rhythm and get better at it and become like a noop master and really get the hang of it. And I watched a lot of tutorials, like so many different tutorials, and nobody seemed to hate them as much as I did or struggle as much as I did. Like maybe if I had used a crochet hook. Some people used a crochet hook. I don't even have a crochet hook, so I didn't go that route. But whatever it is, it never ever got better. But after slaving through that first row, I wasn't gonna pull back because then I'd have to undo all the work I did for my noops. If I knew ahead of time that it would cause me that much trouble, I probably would have just omitted them. Like, it doesn't matter, the lace still looks good. But after I had done like 15 of them, I just decided, whatever, I'm gonna power through and do the freaking noops. It's like death by noop. And I did it. But there's like 50 of them. There might even be more. There's so many. There's just so many. And so that was really painful. But the other issue was after I completed all those dupes, because they're kind of at the top of the lace. I mean, there's a lot of lace to go down here. I had some trouble with my lace, but I didn't want to go back too far because then I would be like into the noob territory of unraveling the noobs, and I was really worried that I would have to do them again. So I kind of just, like, if my count got off, I kind of just fixed it as best I could. I like added an increase here or a decrease there. It was not like stellar lace execution, but guess what? The mohair, I think it's the mohair, it like hides a multitude of errors because I looked, I can't even find them. So like, if I can't find them, they're probably not even there, I think. Like, don't tell anyone. So I'm super pleased with it. I think it's great. I did it. It was like humbling because I am at best an intermediate knitter or like a beginner, adventurous beginner knitter, or a beginner with delusions of grandeur. That's probably the most accurate. I mostly figure, whatever, I don't feel that bad about ripping back, so I'm just gonna give it a go, and like if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Nobody cares about my knitting. Nobody's asking about it or wondering about it. And so like if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I'll figure it out. But this did work out. I would say that's a win. So I was really happy with that. So that's what I'm wearing. Finished objects, I have a couple. I'm just gonna pick like a couple of recent things, and then I don't know, we'll go from there. So this is my finished object. It is the Babble hat by Donna Smith. If you follow anything knitting or yarny or craft related on Instagram, you've undoubtedly seen this hat, or maybe it's just my feed. It shows up all the time in my feed, I don't know. And I saw the little sheep and I was like, oh, I love that. And I do knit a decent amount of hats for my girls. I have a 10-year-old boy who doesn't believe in outerwear or knitwear as a concept. It's too hot. He's just, no. So I don't really knit anything for him. Not because I wouldn't, but because like he doesn't want it, and whatever, that's fine. But I do knit hats for my girls, and they'll wear them. Like they definitely wear them. So I knit the child size hat. So, okay, this hat is both a success and a failure. I think it's a huge success from a cuteness standpoint. I mean, look at the sheep. It's a little bit of stranded knitting, but not too hard. The floats were not too long, so I didn't have to deal with that. And like I think it worked. But it is ginormous. I knit the child size hat. There were actually 2 child size hats. I knit the larger, so maybe my mistake. And to be fair, I did not swatch, but my kids have huge heads, and like, I'm a fully grown adult, and you could put my whole head in here. It's big, people, but look at the sheep. So, okay, I knit this with Jamieson's of Shetland. Oh, good hair. I knit this with Jamieson's of Shetland, Shetland Heather, in the duck egg, that's the blue, the ivory for the sheep, the Miri Dancers is the black, and Mantilla or Mantilla is the pink. It was the recommended yarn in the pattern. This pattern was developed for Shetland Wool Week a few years ago, and so they use 100% Shetland wool. But that brings me to problem number 2. No surprise, it's super scratchy because it's 100% Shetland wool. And I knew that going in, but I figured like, it's outerwear. We live in Chicago, it's freezing cold, and who cares? I mean, it's just on your head. It's not like it's around your neck or something. But I showed it to my 6-year-old, and she like touched it and was like, ugh, it's too scratchy. And not to mention the fact that it's ginormous, but she didn't even try it on her head because she was like, no, she was not picking up what I was putting down. So I don't think she's ever gonna wear it. But that's okay. There's one other problem with this, and it's my fault entirely. The pink that I bought is not pinky enough to really work for what my 6-year-old daughter is looking for. Like, she really wants like unicorn barf, or like if the Easter Bunny and unicorn got together and had a baby. That would be the kind of colors that she wants for everything. Like anything that I make or anything that she sees or we buy, like that's it. Or rainbow. Rainbow unicorn barf. So this pink, it's beautiful. It's like, look at that depth of color, and it's like so lovely, and it's just too nice, you know, to really nail the kindergarten aesthetic. So I don't know. I think it was a success. This is probably the best color work item I've ever produced. But as far as a knitted item that someone in my house will actually use, it's a complete failure. That's okay. I think what really will happen is I'll probably just reknit it. This is Aran weight, so I'll probably just reknit it in a non-scratchy DK weight so that I'll get smaller gauge and I won't have to rejigger the whole pattern, because again, I'm a beginner. That's well outside of my comfort zone. And so I think it'll get a little smaller, and someone will wear it, right? Maybe next year. So that's finished item number 1. My next finished item is a half finished item. I know most people call those hose. I just feel weird about that. I don't know. And then it makes me feel weird that I feel weird about it. Like, am I like some sort of pearl clutcher? I don't think I am. It's weird. It's just a sock. Let's not get too worked up about it. This actually, before I get too far down the road, this is my one and only project bag. It is from not Karen, that's me. It's from Laura Mooney, who has a lovely Etsy shop. She's from Chicago, and her Etsy shop is, wait a minute, let me look. It's like 2 words. What is it? It is, Paper or Threads on Etsy. And she has great stuff. She designs her own fabric. So not only does she design the fabric, but she sews it and she sends it in like this lovely packaging, and I love it. Like llamas, and then on the inside, you got your lined fabric. It's perfect for socks, and I couldn't be happier with that. So this is my half sock. I am trying this year to knit a pair of socks every month, which all these people seem to be able to accomplish. I don't know, you guys. I'm really slow, and I get distracted very easily. But I am trying it. I managed to dig out 2 single socks, one for January and one for February, and this is my March sock. So I completed the pairs for January, February, and I'm on track to complete a pair for March. This sock is the, hang on, let me get it right. This sock is the, Lordy, Candles and Coffee Socks by Julia Pehl from the Happy Knitting Podcast, which if you don't watch the Happy Knitting Podcast, you really should. She's lovely. She has a sweet little boy, and somehow she still manages to do a knitting podcast, and she cranks out these amazing colorwork sweaters and she just makes them up herself. She's a miracle worker, but she just also designs socks and other lovely things. So these are top down. There's ribbing at the cuff, and then a lace panel, much easier lace. Just a small number of stitches going straight down. I even was able to memorize it, so don't be afraid of the lace. There's no noobs. I put in a heel flap and gusset because in the 2 pairs of socks that I've made before, that was the heel that was in those, and I just didn't have it in me to look up a new one. I'm gonna do it. I just haven't, just not for this one. So this is heel flap and gusset, stockinette on the sole, and it's a simple wedge heel that I kitchened together. It was great. I'm knitting these out of Lichen and Lace, their 80-20 sock, which is 80% merino, 20% nylon. I actually have it in another colorway. So here, I can show you. I'm knitting the sock out of Teal Tide, but this is the same yarn in a different colorway. This is Clover. Yeah, 80-20 sock, 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and it's 365 yards to 100 grams, which should have tipped me off. These socks knit up a lot thicker than my other 2 pairs of socks, but I don't even remember which yarn I used, but it was some kind of sock yarn. And these are really squishy and more like a boot sock, which I actually don't mind. I'm always cold. So the idea of having a squishier, thicker sock does not bother me in the least. But if you're looking to wear them like in your shoes a lot, that might be a struggle. So that is that. This is part of a knit along that Julia is hosting. It's kind of a sock along for all of her sock patterns. And I think it runs through the end of April. I'm not entirely sure. It started March 1st. And I remember thinking, oh, I could probably do a pair of socks in that amount of time because I'm super slow and I have a hard time finishing the second sock. So if it were just a month, I would hesitate because that's pushing it for me. So I think it's the middle or the end of April for her sock long. So if you're good at cranking out socks, you know, come on over. She has some really good patterns. I knit this sock on US 1s, that's a 2.25 millimeter, and I'm on team DPN. That's just what I tried first, and so that's kind of what stuck. I've tried Magic Loop a little, and I can do it, but I haven't done it enough that I feel more comfortable doing Magic Loop than DPN. So kind of just gonna stick with DPNs because that's what I know, and I've got a million of them, so I might as well use them. I don't usually plan on having an acquisitions section in this podcast because I don't really buy anything or I really try not to buy yarn unless I have a project in mind and I'm pretty much ready to cast on, like ready to go. So I don't really have a stash. I have leftovers from other projects, but I don't have like a whole room full of beautiful yarn. Like some of the amazing other people that I've seen. I don't know, they must have a different house than I do. But I do have one thing and it's kind of related to socks. So I'm gonna stick it in here. So like I said, I finished up a pair of socks for January and one for February, and now I'm on track to do March. So I was like, well, I'm like a sock knitting machine. So I need April yarn. Obviously, when I finish the March socks, I'm gonna need some socks in April, and I don't have any. Well, I have this one skein of Lichen and Lace, but I kind of want to mix it up. So I got a skein of Nomadic Yarns self-striping yarn. This is dyed by Ashley Aguilar, and I follow her on Instagram, and it is, I just look at all the lovely colors. They're so beautiful. I don't know how she does what she does, but it is amazing. I didn't even know that self-striping yarn was a thing until a couple months ago because I don't know any knitters, and you guys, I live under a rock. Like everything is new, everything's a surprise. So when I found out that they make these amazing yarns that strip themselves, I had to try it. So this is her trusty sock base that's 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, 462 yards to 100 grams in the colorway Old Friend. this colorway used to be called Molly Weasley because she had a whole Harry Potter thing going on, and then she just recently renamed a bunch of those old colorways to new things. So that's fine with me. I love the Weasleys. I like Harry Potter. I like old friends. I like new friends. I call it whatever you want. It looks amazing. There's like pumpkin in there and purple and dark green and pink, and then like this amazing light green. What is that? I'm so excited. I don't even know how many stripes there are in this thing. I probably should have looked it up. It doesn't matter. I do have to look at I have to do some kind of deep dive on the internet to see how to wind up this sucker into 2 balls of yarn that somehow will make socks that remotely match. It doesn't matter to me, but I'm kind of interested to see if I could do it to make 2 matching socks out of this. There's gotta be a way to do it. I kind of want to do contrasting heels, toes, and cuffs, except I don't have any contrasting yarn because I don't have any yarn. I have some scraps, but I don't think they're really sock yarn. I might have some fingering. I don't think it goes with this. I don't know. Maybe I'll have to buy stuff, or maybe I'll skip it. I don't know. We'll find out. This is not a bad problem to have. I'll figure it out. I have until April. I have until forever. Nobody cares. There are no real deadlines, but I'd like to start it by April. Maybe. So that's my one acquisition. Okay, so let's move on to whips. I have a ton of whips because my knitting is really just for me. Like, nobody's interested in it. Nobody's asking about it. I have no deadlines. I have no plans. And so I really have no motivation or incentive to work on something I'm not really excited to work on. So that usually means I just cast on a bunch of stuff. Like, I cast on all the things. I usually have like a sweater, a shawl, a pair of socks, I don't know, whatever else. A hat, like whatever seems cool. I have a mitten somewhere going, or it was going. I don't even know. So I'll just show you what I'm working on now. And if old whips get dug out of the pile, you'll see those too. So what I am working on primarily right now is a shawl, which I didn't even, when I first started knitting, everybody was talking about shawls. They were like, I'm knitting this amazing shawl. And in my mind, shawl just reads grandma. I mean, who wants to wear a shawl? But then I made one shawl, which I don't have here right now, so I'll show it another day. But I made one shawl as a test knit, and I kind of was like, oh, shawls are basically like a fancy way to make something scarfy. You can just do whatever you want with, who cares? And then like the floodgates were open. I was like, oh, I wear my shawls primarily around the kitchen in the morning because it is chilly in Chicago, and my kitchen is like drafty. Does anyone else have cold air that comes down their range hood? I do. Why? I don't know what that is, but I wear my shawls around in the morning, and so who cares what they look like? Who cares what they are? They don't match my outfits. My outfits are frequently pajamas in the morning, so I kind of just let it all go, and I knit whatever I want. So now I'm working on this. It is the HISHO shawl by Olga. Hang on, on Instagram, she's Olga Jazzy Knits, so that's how I know her. But her real name in real life is Olga Buraya-Kefelian. And okay, this is the HISHO shawl. It's a beautiful crescent-shaped shawl that's just really graphic and lovely and enormous. So I am knitting this as part of a knit along. I don't know if you're familiar with Michael from Piece for Piece Crafts. He's also from Chicago, and if you're looking for just a really chill, cool podcast, I would definitely check it out. But he is running a knit along that's called the Kinship and Friends knit along. The Kinship shawl was designed by Stephen West and Olga. This name will not stick in my head. Buraya-Kefelian. And so you could knit the Kinship shawl, or you could knit any of Stephen West's shawl patterns or any of Olga's patterns. So I picked the HISHO shawl, and I am so glad that I did. It is not at all tricky. It's mostly stockinette with some slip stitches, and it's just a lot of repeats. It rolls a lot because of the stockinette, but I'm hoping it will block out, because let me tell you, it is like knitting a little burrito. But the best thing about this shawl, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see it on camera, but I'll bring it up, is that the slip stitches make this really cool kind of 3D texture to it. How can I get you to see it? There you go, a little bit. The slip stitches pull it in so that it makes this amazing dimensional texture to the shawl. And I can't get over it. I mean, you think I'd be over it by now. I've been knitting on this for a couple of weeks. But I do feel like it is actually slowing me down, because I just keep stopping to like, look at how nice it looks. So I love it. It has not been complicated. You just increase on the ends, and knit your stockinette, slip your stitches. It's really no big deal. I haven't actually had to look at the pattern for a week, which I think it's working out fine. Famous last words, right? But I don't think I've messed it up. It looks like it's supposed to look. My stitch count is right on. So I'm about halfway through. I will say this is long. It's so long. Like, it started out with about, I don't know, not that many stitches on the needles, and now it is just, oh my gosh, it's all tangled up. Now it's over 500 stitches on the needles, and by the end of it, it's gonna get to 900 stitches. I don't even know how they're gonna fit. This is my longest cable, so we're gonna make it work. But that's what I'm mostly working on. I've been trying to do one color a day, which was great when it was like 50 stitches. And now it's more of a challenge. It is definitely a challenge. I don't know, this knit along runs through April 9th, which it started on March 1st. It runs through April 9th, which if I manage to complete this shawl by April 9th, it will be the speediest lightning strike of a project that I've ever done. So I didn't tell you about the yarn. So I am using 4 skeins of fingering. It is Movers and Makers, which is kind of the house yarn for my local yarn shop, Nina Chicago. And it is 75% superwash merino, 15% nylon, 10% tencel. And I really love this yarn. This is the Wicker Park sock, and it is dyed in Chicago. I can't remember the name of the dyer, but I'll put it wherever I figure out to put the show notes. I think I'm just gonna try to stick them underneath the video. I don't know, you guys, this is all new. So wherever they are, that's where it'll be. But it's dyed in Chicago, and they have a worsted, they have this Wicker Park sock, and I think they even have a heavier weight that I have not used before. I've used the worsted, but I have not used anything other than this and the worsted. These colors are pretty solid. The worsted that I worked with was very tonal, which I loved. I love the solid too. The yellow is Big Star. The navy blue is Midnight in the Park. The gray is Smoke Daddy, and it looks kind of ivory here, but in person it is a very, very light pink. That's Milk and Honey. So I'm really happy with this project. It turned out to be much easier than I anticipated. Just requires a lot of stamina. So we're gonna see how that goes. That's the HISHO shawl. The next thing I'm working on is in my fancy project bag. I gotta up my project bag game, because I don't have a project bag game because I don't have project bags. I have that one, but maybe one day. So the next thing I'm working on is the No Frills sweater by PetiteKnit, which I am sure you have seen before. It's just a simple raglan with a 1x1 rib on the cuff and a good sized portion of ribbing on the bottom of the body. There is really no reason that this sweater is not done. I have knit the body. I'm done with one sleeve. It knits up super fast. It's mostly stockinette. And I just kind of lost steam on it because I haven't picked up these stitches from the waist yarn. I haven't taken them off the waist yarn to start the second sleeve. I am super happy with this sweater. I'm knitting it out of Filcolana Anina, which is 100, I think it's 100% merino. Let's look, shall we? Yeah, it's 100% merino fingering in the 225 red and held double with the Rowan Kid Silk Haze 70%, whatchamacallit? Nope, not. Mohair, not the Kid Silk Haze. It's Filcolana Chilia, which is also 70% mohair, 30% silk in the colorway Peach Blossom. And I love it. This color combination was a real surprise for me. Everything's a surprise. I don't know what I'm doing, you guys. But on her pattern page, one of the samples had these two yarns held together. I really liked the look of it. It was like this red. I just really liked it. So I bought the yarn and I did not pay too much attention to it. I just bought it and it came and I was like, oh no. This is the Anina, which is fine. It's red. I like red. That's fine. But the Peach Blossom, it's kind of showing up here. It is super bright pink, like really pinky pink. And I'm like, not that into, I'm not really into pink. I'm more like gray or like blue or black or dark gray or just any kind of gray. So I was really worried about the 80s quality of this pink Peach Blossom, which also, are Peach Blossoms pink? I have no idea. But I was like, well, but that sweater looked really good in the picture. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna knit up a swatch and cross my fingers. And you guys, I love it. I love it so much. It was like a miracle. It's not really, it's weird light here. From afar, it does read pretty red. I mean, this is like Christmas red, so it's pretty red. But the pink like just gives it this, I don't know, dimensionality that's really interesting, but it does not say like Dayglow Neon 1984, I ride a skateboard, right? I have a side ponytail. No, you don't. No, I think it marled together really great. I never in a million years would have put these two things together. Never. It like blew my mind. So I feel like it has sort of opened the door to a whole bunch of other possibilities of yarn combos. I just can't wait to try. I mean, how cool. Anyway, love it. Highly recommend. Or something like it. Try something weird. Who knows? This doesn't look weird. Well, it doesn't look weird to me. So I was really pleased with that. I will say, I knit the one sleeve and it came out really skinny, which I think is kind of weird because I actually sized up the sweater because I knit the next larger size than I should have by my measurements, just because I wanted it to be really casual and relaxed, and I didn't want to have to worry about, I don't know, fit. I wanted to be able to wear something under it. I just did it because I don't have a lot of oversized sweaters and I thought it would be fun. So like, Lord help me if I would have knit yet a smaller sleeve for my true size. It would be like a toothpick arm or like a Tyrannosaurus arm, like a little arm, chicken arm. I don't do chickens have arms. I have no idea. I made it longer than the pattern suggested, and so I added the length at the end, which now that I look at it, I should have added the length before I decreased, or like somewhere in the middle, or spread it out or something, because it made it really skinny at the end. Whatever. I'm not gonna rip it back because this 1x1 rib, like, do not be fooled. It is so tiny, so small. You wouldn't think it would cause any trouble, but I have such a love-hate relationship with ribbing. I love how it looks, but I am so deathly slow at knitting it. It's like, I feel like I'm in my first week of knitting, like bring the yarn to the front, bring the yarn to the back. It takes me like 12 years to do that little cuff. So I'm certainly not ripping it out to fix my chicken sleeve. My arm fits in there. It's just a little snug. It is more fitted than the sweater itself. So, you know, notes for next time. I would just maybe do fewer decreases or something. Does not matter. Again, nobody cares but me, and I don't even care. So it's good. We're all good. That is the no frill sweater. And you guys, I'm gonna finish it. Why is it not done? I don't know. Next, I have, okay. So I knit hats for my girls. I have a 6-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old daughter, and I knit hats for them, and they wear them. They're usually more successful than the Babble hat that I showed you earlier. And they wear them every day because it's pretty cold in Chicago. But I do not knit garments for them, or I have not knit garments for them for a couple of reasons. One, I'm super slow at knitting, and so by the time I actually finish a sweater, even a kid-size sweater, like, they're not gonna be excited about it anymore or interested in it. There's a decent chance that they're gonna hate whatever color it's in because they changed their mind because they're kids and like, they don't care. And so if I put in all the work to knit a sweater for my kids and then it sits in their drawer and they never wear it because like they decide that they like orange now, but that one's yellow, so ew. I would be filled with toxic rage, which really is not a good thing to put on a preschooler, like that kind of pressure to appreciate my work. I don't want to have that. So I figure I'll just knit for me because I know I'm gonna like it, right? And then I won't be mad, and then everyone will be happy. But I also, my girls do ask me to make them sweaters, even though they don't really wear sweaters. But they say that they will. And so I really want to, another thing is I really want to learn how to make seamed garments because I've only ever made a couple sweaters and they've all been top down. And they've been pretty successful, but you know, it's kind of limiting if you can only do top down because I, like, for one, would like to make a cardigan. But I'm really afraid of steeking, so I'm gonna have to learn how to seam garments if I'm ever gonna do that, I think. I don't know. I haven't looked too much into it, but I figured it would be a good thing to know how to do. But I also don't want to go to all the trouble of knitting an adult-sized garment in pieces, and then at the very end, when it comes time to put them together, learn that I cannot possibly make them into a functional garment because it's like outside of my ability level. And all the YouTube's tutorials are not enough to get me over the hump to create a garment, a seamed garment. So I was like, okay, what if I knit a seamed cardigan, but a kid size seamed cardigan? I don't know any babies. We're sort of, my friends they all have elementary school age kids or older. So I don't have anyone to knit a baby cardigan for, so I couldn't do a seamed baby cardigan, which really would have been ideal. But I was like, I could knit a 6-year-old cardigan. And if it doesn't fit and it's too small, then my younger one can wear it. And if it is too big, she'll just grow into it. So I'll try that. And then if it works and I manage to produce a finished garment, then I can start making cardigans for myself, which is a win for everyone. So that is a long story to say that I am knitting a cardigan for my older daughter. It has like a really not very catchy name. It's by Sirdar, the yarn company, and I have the picture. It's called Sirdar Family Cardigans style number 8225. Catchy and inspiring, this name. But as far as basic patterns go, it's great. it has a crew neck, it has a V-neck, it has, I think, a shawl collar. Oh yes, look at that shawl collar. It has child size all the way up to women's and men's, you know, adult sizes. So as far as like just a basic recipe for how to crank out a kid's cardigan, this seemed like the way to go. So I'm gonna try to show this. It might be a little awkward because it is partially seamed together, but it's a mess of ends. And you kind of have to use your imagination. Okay, so I am knitting the crew neck cardigan out of, okay, so here's the cardigan. It has some ribbing on the bottom of the body and on the cuff. And then it'll have a button band and a neck band, theoretically, if I manage to create one. But I am knitting them out of, let me see if I can get my little yarn balls. Oh no, where'd they go? Here's one. Well, I don't see the other one. I'm knitting it out of Quince & Co. Chickadee in the colorway Sorbet is the main color. And then the edging is Leek. Just for, I cast on in the green and then immediately switched over to the main color. And I'm hoping to bind off in the green for the neckband and the button band so that there'll be just a little something to jazz it up a little. Sometimes when I am up in the middle of the night and can't sleep and like dream knitting, I consider whether I should embroider something on the front, like a heart or a star or a flower or a bee on the front of the sweater in the green. But then I remind myself that I don't know how to embroider. So I probably won't do that, but sometimes I dream about it. I don't know. We'll have to see how crafty I'm feeling when I'm done with this. But I have to just do the button band and the neck band. What is happening here? There's like all sorts of ends. What? Okay, we're gonna put that aside. But so far it seems to be working. Oh, there it is. This is the Sorbet. It's a sport weight, so it's actually really nice to work with. I had not worked with this yarn before. It seems to have worked. Like the seams all lined up. I was able to match or stitch them together. I don't think it looks too amateur. I don't know. Here's my raglan seam. That looks good. It looks good. I didn't even have to fiddle with it in the underarm to get it to match up. I think that was just luck. I think it is gonna be a little bit big. I made it to I swatched and I made it to the pattern dimensions. Like it all worked out. It didn't stretch or anything weird, but I didn't really measure my daughter. So I think the pattern size 6 is a little bit big on her, but better big than small. And to be honest, I'm probably not gonna finish it in time to wear this year anyway, although don't tell her, she seems super excited. But by the time it rolls around to next year, it should fit great, and fingers crossed. So that is that. That's the end of my whips, you guys. I'm really excited. If you like this video, feel free to hit the like button or the thumbs up or subscribe. I don't know how often I'm gonna get to do this. We're just gonna see how fast I can knit. Whenever I feel like I have something to show or something to say that's worth sitting down and watching, I'll do it as long as my kids aren't running around with no pants on. Which, you know, you never know. But yeah, just whenever I have something that seems like it's worth doing, I'll put out another video. And I'd love it if you could drop me a comment or follow me on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram as Not Fancy Knitter. That's KNOT Fancy Knitter, and also on Ravelry as Not Fancy Knitter. Although I'm not that active on Ravelry, I mostly use it for project pages for me, at least to put down what needle I'm using, because I frequently like to take things off the needles because I want to use them for a new cast on, and then I can't remember what needle I used for the project, so I at least try to put in what needle I'm using so that later on down the road, if I'm trying to pick up this whatever whip it is, I have a fighting chance of completing it. But I would love to hear from you. I hope you have a wonderful week, and happy knitting. Max, you're photobombing my podcast. He's so nice. So I just didn't get it.